I am Laurie McGuire, and I am a breast cancer survivor. My husband Jim and I moved to Texas in 2007 at the end of June. Just 3 weeks later, my life changed forever. I felt a lump in my left breast. I got this hot feeling all over me, and I knew that wasn't good. I asked Jim if he had ever felt the lump or seen it before. He hadn't, and we both took a deep breath. That day, I left for Los Angeles for a store opening, and I thought, well, if that lump's still there when I get back, I'll make an appointment. I had fibrocystic breasts, so I was used to having lumps in my breast, but they were usually tender. This wasn't tender, and it was actually kind of hard. So I was concerned. When I got back from Los Angeles, again, we had just moved to Texas, so I didn't have any doctors. So I searched on the internet randomly for a GYN. And just 6 weeks after I was in Texas, I met my GYN for the first time. She examined me, and she felt the lump, and she said, "Laurie, this isn't good." So she set an appointment for me to go get a mammogram and a sonogram, and 2 days later, that's what I did. The following day, I was asked to come back for a biopsy. I met the radiologist at the hospital. By the way, I didn't know where the hospital was. I had to find it. And when we got there, she did a needle biopsy under sonogram. When she put the tissue into the solution, she looked up at me and she said, "Now for the second time, this doesn't look good." The day after my biopsy, I met my surgeon for the first time. He examined me, he reviewed my films, read the report from the radiologist, and for the third time I heard, "This doesn't look good." I said, "Okay, well, when can we find out what's going on?" And he said the following day he would have the results back, but he wouldn't be in the office till the following week. And so I asked him if he could please call me and just tell me the results, and he was opposed to that. He wanted to meet me face to face in case he had to give me bad news. I said, "Listen, it's cancer or it's not. At this point, call me." So against his judgment, he did. He called me and he said, "Laurie, this is, invasive lobular carcinoma, and it's a pretty big tumor, and we need to do something, and we need to get it out." So I had been a nurse for 20 years, and I said, "Well, I know before you can do that, you need to do CAT scans and bone scans, right?" And he said, "Yeah." And I said, "Okay, perfect. Let's go ahead and get those scheduled over the weekend if you don't mind, and I'll just go get it done." And, he was kind of laughing, but he did it. And so that's what I did over the weekend, and I had an appointment with him on Monday to discuss the results. So the following Monday, I saw my surgeon, and he scheduled me for surgery that Wednesday for a left partial mastectomy and lymph node biopsy. Just 10 days after meeting my GYN, I was going to surgery. And by the way, I was the first person in my family to have breast cancer, or any kind of cancer for that matter. So the following day on Tuesday, we met our oncologist for the first time. And this was a tough meeting. When we went in, he let us know that my tumor was very large, it was very aggressive, it was feeding off the estrogen in my body, and that we had to get it out. And he said my treatment was to have surgery, to have chemo and radiation, to try to keep me alive. Of course, Jim and I said we would do whatever it took. And then he said, "Well, I'm going to try to keep you alive for 2 years." I was 42 years old, strong, athletic, healthy. I can't imagine that I had 2 years to live. It was tough to hear, and the tears just went down out of our eyes onto our cheeks, and we said, "Okay, let's do this." And the following day, I went to surgery, and I had the left partial mastectomy, a lumpectomy, and the lymph nodes biopsied. Unfortunately, my tumor was very large, and the margins were not clear, and I had 3 positive lymph nodes. He said the tumor was the size of a cassette tape, so pretty large. It was against my chest wall, and that's why I couldn't feel it till it kind of just poked out to the side. So that's what I did, and I had the recommendation from the doctor that I had to go back the following week, and I had a complete mastectomy on the left side and a left axillary dissection. They took out all of my lymph nodes, and that was the first step in my treatment to survive. My body began to change so rapidly. I had scars, I had burns from radiation, I gained weight, I didn't have my hair, I didn't look like me. And I said to my husband, "Jim, I'm in here, I'm coming back, just wait, I'm coming back." And that's when I started my fight. And I said, well, my attitude has always been strong in life, and it's going to be strong now. My mantra was, go fight, win, and that's what I was going to do. And so every day I got up and I went to work, and I worked 12-hour days. My oncologist said, Laurie, you're not going to be able to keep that up. But I did, and I worked hard, and we got through it. And that was the time when I said, I cannot wait for my reconstruction. I want to get me back. So I had one breast for an entire year. I hated it. I felt lopsided. I told my husband, just picture having one butt cheek. I mean, you just feel off. It's lopsided. And I could not wait to have reconstruction. Unfortunately, I didn't know what to do or how to do that. I really wasn't told about reconstruction options, and I didn't really explore it. I was going through so much, but now I was at the point where I wanted reconstruction, and I couldn't wait to do it. Well, what happened for me was I met this great lady that kind of tied me to the center. I was doing an interview to hire a position for my company, and I met Marty. Marty is this sharp young lady, and at the time I was bald. I was going through chemotherapy, and so the subject of cancer came up. And she mentioned to me that she had gone to this great hospital and had these great physicians and staff in New Orleans and had breast reconstruction. And so that was the first I'd heard of the center. I did my research. I went onto the website. I saw some amazing pictures showing befores and afters, and I made the call. So I called the center and asked a lot of questions, and every single person that I spoke to was so nice, from Katie to the insurance staff to the nurses. They answered all of my questions. They had me send them things, surgical reports, biopsy reports, photographs, and things like that. And I was really excited. I really wanted to have this surgery, but I was a little nervous too. And I surprised myself by asking them about, what about a prophylactic mastectomy on the other side? I had heard about that. I read it in the website, and my particular kind of cancer, the lobular carcinoma, really has a high tendency to spread to the other breast. I thought of just a year ago, if you just said, Laurie, I need to take your breast, which they did, I was so shocked. And here I am asking them, could you do the other one as well? And in fact, that's what we decided to do. And so we scheduled our appointment, and I was going to New Orleans to have breast reconstruction, to repair my mastectomy on the left, and to have a prophylactic mastectomy on the right. So 1 week before my reconstruction, it was my 1-year anniversary for having cancer, and Jim and I decided to go to Hawaii and to take our children. Just 1 year before, I was diagnosed on his birthday, and that wasn't a very good birthday. So we went to Hawaii to celebrate a better one 1 week before my surgery. While I was there, I ended up going to a chapel for a church service, and I was sitting there with my eyes closed and tears running down my face, singing, and just being happy to be alive and looking forward to my surgery, but a little nervous. And in comes a couple who sat down beside me. And this is the second person that I met that tied me to the center before I even made it to New Orleans, Amy. Amy and her husband sat beside me, and at the end of the service, she says, I have one of those, and she pointed to her Metaport scar. And I looked at her, and she said, yeah, I'm a breast cancer survivor. And I said, wow, I had breast cancer. I'm going for my reconstruction next week, and I'm going to in New Orleans. And she said, that's where I went. And we started talking, and she had the same nurses, the same doctors, and I couldn't believe it. And so right after the service, her and I and her husband walked over to meet Jim, because my husband was a little nervous about me going in for a 6 to 8 hour surgery, and her husband really helped him by explaining how sensitive the center was, how they came out during the surgery and really informed him, made him comfortable, and that meant so much to me that he was feeling more supported and happy about this opportunity. And then Amy and I slipped away into the bathroom, and she showed me the wonderful reconstruction and the magic that the doctors performed on her. And I thought, oh my goodness, if I could look half that good, I'd be so happy. And so it was a God thing to me that I met Amy and her husband in that chapel that day in Hawaii. So finally, we came to New Orleans, and we showed up at the center, and I was so amazed at how beautiful it was. They had a waterfall in the lobby, and the colors were so soothing. Beautiful artwork of water in the ocean or the lakes. It was so pretty. Roses in the room. Everything was wood. Nothing was silver and sterile. I just couldn't believe it. It was like a spa. It was absolutely beautiful. And then I got to meet Dr. Delacroix. Oh my goodness, I really liked him right from the start. I asked him so many questions about what the surgery would do and how I would look, and he really listened, and he answered every question we had, and I felt great about everything he said. Then he took a purple marker and drew all over my body, so he had markers for in surgery. And then he said to me, "Laurie, I'm going to make you look great." And I don't know what else I could have heard. I was so excited. I went to bed that night with a lot of hope. And the next day, got up, went to the surgical suite, and it was successful. It was awesome. I remember very clearly waking up in my room and looking down and seeing 2 breasts. I'm like, oh my God, it was amazing. And I know at that moment it was a pivotal time for Jim and I turning to getting our life back. So in November of that year, we returned for my revisions, and later that month for my tattooing. And the tattooing to me was hysterical. I've never had a tattoo before. And I walked in and the fella said, "So what do you want tattooed on your breast?" And I'm like, "A nipple." And he said, "Well, we have options." And I said, "What do you mean?" And he said, "Some women choose a sunburst, stars." The one lady asked for the state of Texas. I don't know. My goal was to get back to normal, so we went along with that. But I thought it was great that the center offers whatever a lady wants in her reconstruction. But I love the reconstruction, and I love the tattooing. And my husband, Jim, has said many times, if you want to see Laurie's breast, just ask. She'll show you. And I've showed a lot of people since surgery, but I love my breast. And by the way, so does Jim. Since my diagnosis, all 3 of our children have been married, and our first granddaughter was born. Cancer did not win. I was at every one of those special, special events. And I'm stronger now than I was in August 2007 when I heard the terrible words, "It's cancer." 6 surgeries, chemo, radiation, all that I went through. But after all of that, losing my breasts, my lymph nodes, my hair, my figure, I had the magic touch of Dr. Delacroix and Dr. Sullivan. And now, it's the new me. I'm stronger. I love my body. I love my breasts. And now, I can live looking fantastic. I am a survivor. My advice is know your options. Be a voice. Share with other people that we have an option as a woman, whether we're full-figured or whether we're thin, whether we have 1 mastectomy, whether we need a prophylactic mastectomy. There's options. And to make sure you know what your options are.